you, Vivekanand. Thanks CIPLA team and IHW to conduct this SCM forum wherein we are having a discussion and we can share thoughts about our day-to-day working and about SCM, and we can learn from each other. So first I would like to talk about the complete SCM domain in healthcare. So whatever is being used in hospital, whatever is being consumed in the hospital, both by patient or for internal consumption, all these items come under supply chain domain, right? Supply chain is a vast subject wherein inventory management, material management, procurement, pharmacy, medical store, operations, OTs, all these, all these multiple units which require medications, surgical items, implants, non-medical items, capex, all these things are covered into SCM. So SCM is a umbrella wherein all these bifurcations are there, like I said about material management, inventory management and procurement. The different type of categories which are there in supply chain domain, which you can bifurcate as per your identification, are like they can be categorized into two. One is OPEX, one is CAPEX. The CAPEX part is like your medical equipment and non-medical equipment, and then the OPEX part you can categorize into drugs, all the pharmaceutical needs of your hospital based on your patient's need. If the hospital is ortho specialty, cardiac specialty, you would store medications which are needed for those specialties. And if it is a multi-specialty hospital, you would keep the inventory of those medications. So one is drugs, you can call it pharmacy also. The pharmacy is further divided into IP pharmacy and OP pharmacy. IP pharmacy is a store wherein all the medications need of the patient would be indented through HIS. I am sure most of the hospitals would have HIS in their hospitals in place. HIS is Hospital Information System, or then there are some ERPs also which some hospitals use. ERP is basically used for procurement also, but in some kind of ERP setups there are consumption modules also. So all the patient need are being indented to the IP pharmacy, and the OP pharmacy wherein the patient is coming to show himself in OPD to the doctor. Doctor is writing the prescriptions and the patient is coming up with the prescription into the OP pharmacy, and you sell directly to the patient. That is OP pharmacy. The second vertical in OPEX is medical consumables. In medical consumables, you can have two domains. You can bifurcate into two. Number one, surgical items. Surgical items, I will give you example like IV set, IV cannula, catheters, tagaderms, and all those things which are required on day-to-day basis. They are medical consumables. Then implants also. Like if you have a super specialty hospitals like of cardiovascular sciences, ortho, neurosurgeries and all, so you would be requiring lot of implants in cardiac. Stents are required, pacemakers are required. In ortho hospitals, your implants are TKR, THR implants are required. In neuro, you are requiring a lot of drills and all. So these implants, the only difference between these two verticals, medical consumables and implants, is that medical consumables you keep inventory in hospital, you procure the inventory and you keep the inventory. But for the implants, it is mostly on a vendor management inventory basis, right? That is on consignment basis. So these two I discussed about, pharma, medical consumables. The third is the third is non-medical. Non-medical materials like stationery, your plastic items, your garbage bags, your other small items, they are non-medical. Then one more thing which is coming in there under OPEX is indirect procurement. What is indirect procurement? Indirect procurement is like you have housekeeping agency, you have security agency, you have NP outsource and all. So these all are under your OPEX. Drugs, medical consumables into two parts, surgical and implants, then non-medical and indirect procurement. Then one more vertical is CAPEX. CAPEX is a huge, huge domain in hospital also, because you need lot of capex, lot of items, lot of medical technologies to run your hospital on day-to-day basis. So this is about how you can bifurcate your supply chain item by item basis. Then if I talk about the structuring of these departments, you can structure your departments like procurement versus operations management. What is procurement? So procurement is whatever is being consumed by the hospital in two modes. Number one is patient consumption, number two is internal consumption. All these consumptions are evaluated and consolidated. On the basis of that, you should be aware what is my consumption pattern in these domains, what kind of drugs is being used by my hospital, by my clinicians, by my doctors, what kind of surgical are required in my hospital. On the basis of that, we can consolidate the complete consumption pattern, and on the basis of that consumption pattern, we can reach out to the particular manufacturers who are making those medicines or surgical items. Right? When we reach out to those manufacturers, either they are directly manufacturers or they are they are doing the marketing of those products and being manufactured by the others. But in most of the cases, we don't deal directly with the manufacturers, we deal directly with the marketing companies. Like for example, Cipla also making some of the goods, most of the goods on their own manufacturing plant, but some of the goods they must be getting manufactured by third party manufacturing also. So in our hospital case, we directly deal with the marketing companies. They provide us their quotations. We ask for RFQ. RFQ is request for quotations. On the basis of that, we get the prices and all. We do compare those prices across multiple companies wherein alternatives are available. But if the alternatives are not available, if the item is monopolistic or patent or research molecule wherein there is no alternative available in India, like we must running oncology hospitals. Mukesh is aware of it. So there are certain patent molecules wherein you don't have alternates available, and you would be getting very less margin on those products. So on the basis of these things, you analyze and you compare the complete information which is there in front of you, and then you on the basis of that, then you negotiate with those companies. You get a proper pricing structure, and after getting that pricing structure, in case of pharma and surgical, you should form a formulary. The formulary constitution committee, there should be a formulary constitution committee wherein clinician representatives should also be there, finance should also be there, and supply chain representations should also be there. And after that, you should constitute a formulary which should be used across all your units. If you are a single unit hospital, this formulary should be implemented, or if you are a chain of hospital, the formulary should be implemented across all the unit hospitals. Similarly, for surgical items also, you do the same activity, whether you have alternate available or you don't have alternate available, but you have to make a formulary. Similarly, for your implants and all, you have to understand what kind of implant are required by my clinicians, what is the company choice, what would be the prices and all, and you reach out to the companies, you get the information, and the basis of that you recommend those products and all. So this, and then you have this non-medical procurement also, wherein there are day-to-day basis needs. Some items you can have a central negotiation, some items you can have a unit basis, rate contracts and all. So this is a brief idea I'm giving you about the procurement. Once your formulary is defined, then your procurement process comes in place, right? How would you do the procurement? You must be having reorder level system running in your software HIS, wherein day-to-day basis your system would calculate what is required basis on previous 90 days or 60 days or 30 days consumptions, right? Then you will have a purchase requisition. On the basis of that, the purchase requisition would be formed into purchase order. The purchase order would go to the vendor. The vendor is not that company. The vendor is the distributor authorized by that particular company with which you have the rate contract. Right? Then you would get the item delivered at the price which you and the marketing companies had agreed, and then you will check whether I am getting the item at the price which was negotiated or agreed by both of us. So these are the things which you have to do on day-to-day basis. And once you have placed the order, you get the medications, then you make the GRN, and then your stock is updated. This is procurement. After procurement, what happens? Your inventory management plays a role. This is called inventory management and material management. You have the items now in your racks. Now you would get the requirement for two different type of things. Number one is patient requirement. Patient requirement would come from wards, ICUs, and there would be departmental requirement which would you get from OTs, blood bank, labs and all. So all these requirements which are patient centric, you would get a patient indent. How efficient you are a patient you are getting 4 indents in a day or 10 indents in a day, that is an operation management which I talk about, that is an operations management. Then you have to manage the inventory, you have to deliver the medications to the patient on time, the right medication, right dose, right, then you have departmental consumptions also, wherein you have to ensure that whatever I have issued to this particular department is being booked on time or not. So this is a basic idea about how you procure, how you do the inventory management, and how you manage your operations management.
Thank you. And briefly, you have covered almost everything. And operationally, if I understand from the complete procedure, it goes a lot in managing this. Now I would switch on from the operational perspective. I'll come to the financial perspective, because you add a lot of value to the hospitals. And if I talk about growth of a hospital, definitely growth comes from money, and all the expenses, almost more than 80% of the expenses are being controlled by supply chain management, and it highly depends that how efficiently we are managing that, and those efficiencies are bringing a lot of cost advantages to us, and in turn those cost advantages will definitely get into more profitability, and that's how we fuel the growth of any organization. So I would love to know in detail, how does this complete healthcare supply chain management adds value on a different levels of a hospital growth?
The cost of medications and materials, which is, the term is COGS, cost of goods sold, right? So in a multi-specialty hospital, 20 to 23% COGS is what is being consumed by the materials team. In terms of the bifurcation which I discussed earlier, like drugs, surgicals, implants, and departmental consumption. So 22 to 23% in a multi-specialty hospital. But if it is a ortho hospital, the costs could be high because there are very squeezed margins in all those things. But 23% is the costs which is generally there in different type of hospital setups. So now you have to, as a supply chain professional, your job is to manage this cost in an efficient manner, wherein number one, if you have first of all, you should have that awareness of what kind of things are being used in my hospital, right? So are you aware that I can bring some cost efficiency in that particular item? How? Because if you will not be aware, you will not be able to bring the efficiency. So first you will need to have that information coming out in form of reports, dashboards, right, and all. So for that, I think we should have the masters in place, or item masters in place, which would able to give us reports and dashboards in a proper form, and then on the basis of that you can do comparisons. So without doing comparisons, you will not be able to reduce the cost. You have to do comparisons. For example, if there is a generic meropenem, you have 4 to 5 brands are being used in your hospital in different quantities. But there is one brand which is costing 1000 rupees, and there is one brand which is costing you 400 rupees, right? I'm just giving an example. It's not a perfect value. So now you are aware that I have this opportunity to switch on to this 1000 to 400 rupees. You have a gap of 600 rupees. This is your opportunity. You can save cost in this. You can have this comparison, and the basis of that comparison you can recommend your clinicians as well as your finance and your management that I am going to recommend this 400 rupees wala brand, and then we will save this much of amount. This is a way you can save your cost. Then there are other vertical also, like you had certain departmental consumptions also, like F&B may you use water and all, but where this water is being used, how many bottles are being issued, why these bottles are being issued, these questions you should ask. You should have these information on month basis. It's not that generally what happened, what store guys do, they get an indent and they issue only. What is our problem? Our problem is that we think that we get the indent and we have issued, our job is over. But our job is not over. Our job is to control each and every consumption in the hospital across all the units, right? You must be having different stores, different units in a hospital. So whatever is being consumed in all these verticals, which I have already discussed about verticals, how can we bifurcate our materials in vertical? We need to control the consumption of all these items. If there is patient-centric, how many indents are coming? Why there is a indent of meropenem injection, 4 to 5 injection in a day for a particular patient? Is there any pilferage? Is there any mismanagement of the stocks? So we should have that information and we should have that analysis on day-to-day basis. So coming back to your question, number one, we should have that information wherein we have alternatives available. Number two, we should have the consumption pattern also, wherein why it is being used, how it is being used, what is the ideal quantity. We should have a benchmarking, right, in terms of the revenue, how my hospital revenue is growing, whether my consumption is growing more than the revenue or less than the revenue. If it is less than the revenue, it means I am doing good. If it is more than the revenue, it means there is some issue and we have to check it. So this information, I always talk about information, because if you don't have that information, you will not be able to ask the right questions. So right information will help you to frame the right questions, and if you start to ask the right questions, I think you will get the right answers. And by getting the right answers, I think you will be able to do the proper cost savings at all.
Perfectly fine. So now we know the operational things in detail, the financials which goes behind it, and how we are controlling those financials to ensure that supply chain management is actually adding a value and fueling the growth of organization. And you rightly said that right question brings right perspectives, and I hope bringing the question here about COVID-19 will be a right fit here, because we all have witnessed a lot of changes in our own lives. So if I talk about supply chain management, and I would have to ask you what all differences you have witnessed before COVID era and post COVID era, because I'm sure there has been a lot of challenges, lot of interventions, and lot of policy or SOP levels learning which must be now benefiting the organization. So I would like to request you to share some of those insights.
So before COVID, I must say we were all working in a very comfortable situation. We had a set SOPs and all. Order hum de dete the. Then we got the medications, and then everything was very good. We had RC and all. When COVID came, certainly there were demand of the items which were out of stocks, both in hospital inventory as well as from market also. There were some new requirements, like we were short of the masks, 3-ply masks and N95 masks. We were short of, no one was aware of PPE kits at that particular point of time, and there were hardly any manufacturers. Then there were requirement of certain medications like just forget remdesivir injection. Then Cipla also bring up some cocktail types of medications. So there was a complete disruption in the supply chain domain, and there was a lot of pressure because you have to arrange the medications. There are emergency situations and all. But I must say that our pharma partners like Cipla and other companies also, they played very important role. They helped us to have a proper replenishment of the stocks which was required in emergency, like remdesivir and all. And then there were certain players from different zones who came out with manufacturing facilities of PPE kits and 95 masks and 3-ply masks and other things. So though it was a new thing for us, but the resilience in supply chain was there, so that we learned very fast. We learned very fast and we were able to manage. But this taught us the lesson that these kind of situation can come anytime, right? So you need to be aware of your your right suppliers. Like now everyone is aware who would give you the PP kit, who are the manufacturers of remdesivir and all. So you should have the information of who is my right supplier, right manufacturer and all, and you should have that particular relation with them, because this also plays very important role in supply chain. If you don't have that particular good relation with your manufacturer or supplier, then he'll not help you on time. I have seen this. There were some certain hospitals which were getting remdesivir on time, but there were certain hospitals who were not getting any single vial of remdesivir. So in these type of situations, your relation with your supplier and the company person plays very important role. That's why I am saying, I always say that the role of supply chain person is to make relations also, right? It's not that you are sitting on this table or on this chair and then unfortunately there are a lot of people who understand that these pharma guys are not that much important when they negotiate with them or when they discuss with them. But for us, they are very important. Pharma also, suppliers also. So it should be win-win situation for both of us. They help us and we provide them the opportunity to work with us. So coming back to your question, no, we should have that information. Who is our right customers? They are our customers also and partners also, and we should have that right relation with them. And basis on that, we learned to come out of our comfort zone, and now I think we all are ready. If any these kind of situation will come in future, I think we'll be more than ready to equip with all those situations.
That's fantastic. So I hope that COVID-19 has made the express trains and converted those trains into bullet trains. If we talk about the speed, and probably speed which has been improving, and the efficacy of the processes has also improved a lot. And while we are setting up the context for the regulatory framework, one important thing which we generally miss out is technology. So since we have talked about operations, we have talked about financials, we have talked about learning in pandemic, let's have a conversation on technology, because healthcare sector has been adopting technologies very frequently. So they are the early adopters of any technologies. And I'm sure while we implement any technologies, there must be a bottleneck while we are leveraging those technologies to the full potentials. So what all those challenges you have faced, or what do you think by reducing or by placing those strategic levers on the place, you can leverage the outcomes of those technologies at the full potential?
So I will bifurcate technologies into two parts. One, the technology, the medical technology, like in forms of machines and equipments, that is always in place, right? The hospital is very much dependent on these technologies, because in absence of these technologies, we will not be able to work. But the use of technology in supply chain efficiency is the thing which we have started to explore now. I think most of the hospitals must be doing all those things. So how can we improve our efficiency? So it's not only supply chain. I think there is lot of activities being done in healthcare domain with the help of technology. complete patient flow in a hospital, all the steps are being efficiently improved using the technology. But I discuss only about SCM because this is a domain related to SCM conclave, right? So the use of technology, like we have now, most of the guys have seen that there has been a disruption in distribution network, right? So that was also because of the technology only. We have seen the example of these partners of like Economed, Stratmed, Medica Bazaar, and few more to name. What they did, they had that information about what is being required by the hospital, which information we didn't have. It's not that they are doing anything else, but using the right technology, they have the more information than us. That is the only way they are able to come up these kind of disruptions. What they have done the consolidation basis using the technology. They had the complete gamut of information available with them, and they using the technologies, they have linked all the manufacturer, all the suppliers, all the branches with each other, and they are able to give you some kind of profit, and also in lieu of that profit, they will also learn the profit. So this is one of the use of the this technology being done. And if I talk about internally you can also improve your operations using the technology. How you can do, like firstly, initially what we did, we used to do our day-to-day activities manually, right? Manual intent used to come. आप लोगों में से बहुत सारे लोगों ने manual intent के against में issue किए होंगे, right? Then HIS came, then ERP came, right? Basis on the HIS, we started doing dispensing and procurement exercise and other things also. But now the use of technology is to give you proper dashboard, business analytics, BI tools, right? What are BI tools? BI tools will give you the right idea about your consumption patterns, your stock outs, your compliances management, your formulary adherences and all. So the use of the technology will help you in a way you have not thought about it, because manually, and we are in a practice wherein we may overlook lot of things, but the technology gives us the right perspective and the right information, and people have started using that. Lot of like if someone is from Narayana Hridyalaya, NH has developed its own BI tool. Is someone from NH? Okay. So Narayana Hridyalaya has come up with own BI tool, right? So they have their complete information about their KPIs, wherein they measure their KPIs on month basis using that BI tools, and it's very easy for them to analyze each and everything related to their domain. So I think the role of technology is very important. It's going to improve day by day, and I think there would be a lot of efficiency using technology.
Thank you. So we almost set up. We have a wonderful context getting bounced off now, and I hope everything step by step we ensure that the knowledge getting populated among the audiences. Now, if we talk about the complete operations, if we talk about complete finances, talk about complete learning, we talk about technology transfer, we will also have to talk about the procedures, the standard operating procedures, the policies which ensures that we deliver these outcome case after case without getting failed. So we see a lot of guidelines globally. We see a lot of standard operating procedures inside the institutions. So if we talk about regulation, it is inside the institutions. The second part is outside the institutions. So inside the institution is many times gets controlled by leaders in different circumstances, and outside regulations are something which keeps us nudging that we are on a right track, not on right track, and these are sometimes very important when we are driving the growth. We are ambitious and we are mission oriented in terms of delivering good health care for all. So in this case, I would like to know from you, is there a need of uniform standard operating procedures and policy framework across the country? If we have something, what all improvement you can suggest? So how do we see those policy frameworks bringing the uniformity in the country, ensuring that one standard of good health gets applied to all?
So, in terms of the healthcare providers, I think policy framework is very much important, and a lot of work has been done in having a uniform healthcare policy. Most of us are aware about NABH, National Accreditation Board for Healthcare Providers. So, what NABH does? NABH has certain standard operating procedures wherein they evaluate all the hospitals which are accredited by them. So I think that is one of the framework wherein we have a standard policy across all our units wherein NABH is there. Then there is JCI. There are a lot of hospitals who went for JCI also. JCI is an international body. I think a lot of branches of Apollo, Medanta, Fortis. I'm not aware about units in South, but I'm aware of units in North which are JCI accredited. So they have very stringent policies. If you are not able to qualify for those policies, you will not be getting that accreditation. So these kind of bodies have done very important role, and very efficiently they have made a policy framework across all the healthcare providers, right? And if I talk about supply chain, there is a huge subject in these JCI and NABH chapters. There is a chapter of medication management and usage wherein there is uniform policy and all. So I think by implementing these two accreditation, we have a set uniform policy of supply chain. But I think lot of things which we do on day-to-day basis are not covered under those guidelines. So we should have first of all, we should have internal operating procedures. Like in Fortis there was FOS, Fortis operating system. In my hospital we have made Paras operating system. I think Max also has some these kind of things in place. So but these are on individual hospital basis. Your question was that is there any need? I think yes, we can learn from the good things which we have done in our individual hospitals. We can learn from each other, and then we can have a platform either being controlled by government or some bodies wherein there can be knowledge transformation, knowledge transfers, and they can learn from each other, and then we can adopt efficiently all these learnings, and we can improve our system basis on our understandings.
Thank you. So I would come to know some critical gaps. Like we understand this completely, that there is a need. We understand that NABH is there to support us in policy frameworks, and some of those things gets covered. So I would specifically be keen in knowing some of the critical gaps you feel either in internal system or the external systems which we have observed needs tighter regulations.
So I think the hospitals which are not accredited, they must be having a lot of critical gaps. But if a hospital which is accredited by these quality certification bodies, so all these areas are covered. So I'll not say there are any critical gaps, but must be there are some gaps, like not getting the right example as of now what are the gaps, but I think there must be some gaps wherein we can come up with the knowledge of each other, and we can improve those gaps.
Okay, thank you. And if I talk about those critical gaps, robust policy framework is something which will ensure those critical gaps has been addressed. These critical gaps has been addressed up to the extent that they ensure there is quality healthcare outcomes on every need. So if we talk about those policy frameworks, what is the way forward for policy regulations in this regard?
So, as I said earlier, I mean there are bodies which make the policies and all, and on the basis, and there is a very robust audit mechanism wherein you have to undergo those audits. 3-4 days. This is 3-4 days audit, and you have to fulfill all the requirements of those bodies. So it's I mean 90% of the work has been done, but the pending work, which is I think not covered by those NABH accreditation or JCI accreditation bodies, is that this is an audit which is governed in once a year, right? But throughout the year, I think you have to make a mechanism wherein you should have your monitoring of your departmental KPIs on weekly basis or day-to-day basis, so that you can understand where are the gaps, right? The gaps in TAT, the gaps in patient satisfaction, the gaps in, if I talk about supply chain, the gaps in inventory management and all. I think because I think inventory management and SCM are not very much covered under those guidelines. But if I particularly talk about SCM, I think a lot of things can be done. Like I think there is gap of these. There is no proper tool of doing inventory management across the healthcare domain, and everyone is doing all those things based on their own understanding and knowledge. So there is, this area can have a uniform policy, and but the way I can only envisage that we should have these kind of bodies wherein we can meet with each other and we can understand the problems of each other, and then we can have probably come out with a solution and implement all those things.
Thank you. So in this is definitely important that leaders like you come on the stage and speak about critical challenges. The way you have narrated the story talks a lot about the policy framework and establishing those. Everything in this world needs consistent update. They have newer challenges getting thrown in front of them daily, and that gives us opportunity to learn something out of that. And those learnings should be documented to give better policy understanding.
Yeah.
So if we talk about those policy understanding, we have to talk about knowledge sourcing, because if there is a policy, there has to be compliance. Otherwise, there is no meaning of that policy having on place. If we talk about those compliances, knowledge sourcing becomes most important thing. And you working in supply chain management, I'm sure you must be working on some parts of knowledge sourcing as well. Because if you want to ensure the compliance is there in the complete system, then you need to train people. So how do you ensure that complete knowledge sourcing of the organization is actually solving the purpose of making people compliant with the processes and regulations?
So I think these issues are being handled by leaders on unit to unit basis. Basis on their understanding and basis on the feedbacks they get from their departments, they study and they try to solve those problems. But again, there is no set guideline for this, right? And your question was that how can this knowledge sourcing can be a uniform structure, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So I think this is again in a very early stage, though we are doing lot of activities using technologies and all, but yes, the gap is that everyone is doing the activities in silos. I mean, you are not discussing with each other, we are not in touch with each other. So if I am doing something in my own capability, I think I am doing the best thing, but maybe someone else in some other hospital may be doing the activities better than me. So I think there is this gap wherein I think I don't have the correct framework how can this be taken forward, but I think there should be something wherein we could have these kind of sessions, we could have the understandings and findings what are the findings on day-to basis, what are the findings on week-to-week basis, and then we can discuss with each other. Like I think pharmacovigilance, there is a pharmacovigilance committee, but that talks only about the medication errors. But I think SCM errors and SCM understandings, there is nothing being done kind of this thing. So I think we can discuss about, we can thought about it, we can think about it, how to go ahead and how to to move forward using to enhance the SCM activity using the understanding and the feedbacks which we get from our teams on day-to-day basis.
Thank you. So we come now to the end of the session, and what we discussed here is definitely something which steps a stone to come forward, make some policies, understand some policies framework, regularize it, and then form some kind of uniform standards which actually keeps us guiding to ensure that we are on the mission of good health for all, and we achieve that. Thank you, Pradeep ji, for giving your time for this session, and I'm sure we all got various perspectives related to it. We all had the complete journey inside, and then we had also an interesting conversation on the policy which we can have on a uniform level. So thanks a lot.
Thanks everyone.